Today is the 19th of December. And in the northern hemisphere, that means we're approaching the winter solstice. Which in the old religions was a time of year for going inward, reflecting on the year gone by, the year to come, and kind of a time for processing. Solstice in the winter celebrates the coming of the light. So from this time of year, when the days are short and the nights are long, there comes a point when that starts to turn around. The sun returns, the days start getting longer. And we're on our way towards spring and regrowth. So solstice comes from the Latin meaning sol, sun, and stere, which is to stand still. Because it seems at some point in that process there is a standing still in the heavens before everything starts to I want to say go back the other way, although it's of course not really that. We might think of it as a pause. We might practice it as a pause. So perhaps today that's what we will do. We will practice pausing in honor of the solstice. So let's come for a moment to the breath. Simply watching, simply being with the breath as it enters and leaves the body. And no attempt at the moment to control it at all. It may change as we watch it, as we be with it, and we can notice that change. We may notice that as soon as we bring attention to the breath, we want to breathe more deeply. We may notice that the in-breath is a little sticky today. Oh, it feels hard to breathe in. It's like an obstruction. Or that it's really difficult to breathe out. Something feels hard to let go of. So notice today what your preference is. What's easier for you? And so this is the first discipline of the meditation session today, to keep the mind with the breath, even though it wants to travel and think about the plans for the week and all the pressures that we're under, the list of things to do, the things we really shouldn't have done. What he said, what she said. Can we bring the mind then back to the breath? All the way in, all the way out. Can we notice where the breath wants to go? Maybe a little more into the back body. That feels a little empty. Maybe more up into the top of the lungs that feel a little closed off. And maybe the out breath wants to empty out from the bottom of the lungs. Yes, a sigh might come. And as we stay with the breath, we might notice that at the beginning of the breath, the end of the breath, there is a pause, like a mini solstice. There is a standing still at the end of the in-breath, at the end of the out-breath, before the breath returns. And so now, instead of placing the mind on the breath itself, the going in, the coming out, can we place the mind on the pause, on the still point that is between the breaths? Placing the mind on the pause, that still point between the breaths. And so the breath keeps coming in and going out, no worries, but the mind somehow stays with the stillness that is between the breaths. So when you find the mind has wandered, which it will, off into the past, off into the future, retracing those steps, placing the mind on the breath, following it all the way in, all the way out, finding that pause and placing the mind on the moment of stillness before the returning of the breath. And so a question comes to mind, something like, what does it take us? What does it cost us to come to stillness? What does it cost us to place the mind so single-pointedly? What do we have to let go of? And what kind of discipline do we need in order to come to that stillness? Because this is the same kind of discipline and practice that it takes to come to sit in meditation. These are the same kinds of distractions or busynesses. This is the same life that we need to put down for a second in order to come to sit. In a way, this investigation, this question, or the answer to the question will tell us who we are, or more about who we are right now. How our life is, how we live it, how we spend our days and nights. And what does it cost us to stop and be with what is present? And so coming back to this theme of reflection at the solstice, it's not really possible to do that without the stillness. The reflection is very difficult on the move. We need to stop and go a little deeper, look a little deeper, listen a little deeper. And so, in this still place, from this still place, when we look and listen, what do we see and hear? Take this question with you now as you pause the mind a little longer. When I do this pausing, this stopping, this standing still, what do I see and hear? What is it like? What happens or doesn't happen? What do I know here in this pause? What is there to be known?